So what I was trying to figure out is it better to date young hot girls, or is it better to date mature girls? And
Yeah.
I'm going to say this with specific dates. So we're both 48, and so
Yeah.
let's just use the two of us as examples, right? Like, one of us has to date girls that are like 22 years old, and then the other
Okay.
one has to date girls that are
48.
32 to 35 to 48, right?
Dude, 35. I don't know, man. That's 13 years younger than us.
Okay. Well, so we're just
Say
going to
40. Say 40 up.
Yeah, 40 up. Okay? And so then I wanted to just weigh the pros and cons, right? Because actually in my view, it's unbelievably fucking equal. And
Oh.
that is I think shocking. Right?
Okay. It's laid out.
Well, so like for example, most people would say like, well, what are you going to say to a 22-year-old? You know? What are you going to say to him? And it's like, well, what are you, fucking stupid? You don't know how to like hold a conversation. Oh, well, what if they're insecure? Well, make them not insecure. Like, oh, what if they're not accomplished? Well, make a lot of money and give it to them. Right?
Totally.
Like, what the fuck are you saying?
Yeah.
What if they're not secure in their careers? Well, fucking don't make them feel insecure by being a total dick about your career and then bringing them around all these women that all went to Harvard. Like, don't fucking do that. Right? Like, why is that so? It's so easy for me to see, but that is the most common argument that comes up as to why a man shouldn't do that. What's your thought about that?
It's a good question. There's kind of interesting. There's so many different variables and themes. So let me lay out a few. One is I think there's a societal narrative that's been built up over the years that's specific to kind of like white American culture. And so, where does it come from? It comes from Christianity. I think it comes from women. I think it comes from feminism. There's this narrative that like, you're bad if you're an older man dating a younger woman. And I think that narrative mostly comes from societally trying to keep older men dating older women to keep a certain balance in society, to preserve marriages, to not have it so all the older rich men are dating the young hot women, because that kind of fucks up societal balance. So I think that narrative is developed because of that. Mostly kind of developed by women, really. So I don't know. I sort of feel like we want to call a spade a spade. That's out there, and that narrative is like, it's hard for me to like believe it or take it too seriously.
I think it was Bill Burr that said something like, "You want to know why? You want to know why this whole woke agenda is happening with women? It's like, oh, you're so brave putting on a bikini with a body like that." Oh, you're so brave. And he's like, because then you're not a fucking threat, right?
Totally.
Like, dude, just think about this as like a strategy. And I'm not saying that dude's always right, but fuck is that one correct? Like,
totally.
Oh, you're so brave. You're so brave coming out as this whole trans thing. It's like, oh yeah, then you're not a threat to my man at all. Right?
Totally.
Like, what are we saying then? It's like, because I don't want to drift into the older women yet, because I think there's more that can be said about these younger ladies.
Okay, so back to your question, to answer the question, you have to start like sorting out like what is a relationship, what is a romantic relationship, and why get in one at all. And there's a bunch of different needs, and different parts of women meet different needs. So one of the reasons to be in a romantic relationship is to have sex. One of them is to flirt and have romance. One of them is to have someone to sit around with on a Sunday night and watch TV. Maybe one of them is to have interesting, stimulating conversations. Yeah. And I can keep going and going and going. And if you start listing off lots of needs, the challenge to find a woman that's going to be able to do all these things gets more and more and more and more.
Good point.
But for sure one of them is to have sex, because that's kind of what makes a romantic relationship different than every other fucking relationship in the world.
Yeah. Good point.
Sex has to do with, is a biological mating activity. And so it has to do with like physical attraction. So physical attraction is sort of a essential part of it. And so trying to just find a woman just because she's super mature or established or smart and can have super stimulating conversations, like you gotta be physically attracted to her, you know?
Right.
Whereas there's some dudes, and we can judge them as superficial or whatever, where they're not really looking to their lady to have stimulating intellectual conversations. They're looking to their lady to look beautiful and then flirt with and have romance and have sex.
Yeah.
And that's what those dudes are looking for in a woman. And is that bad? What if the dude is getting his intellectual conversation needs met at work or, you know, with his friends or watching podcasts or reading books? Maybe he doesn't need that need to be met from his lady.
That's a good point. But I kind of don't buy it.
My argument is, and this has gotten clearer to me as I've gotten older. I'm convinced it's always there for all age people, but something about as I've gotten older, I see it more, is when and I'm sure this is true for everyone, all genders, but when I'm sitting with an extremely attractive, very pretty face and physically attractive woman of any age, it's like some sort of neurotransmitter hormonal thing happens in me where I get a little intoxicated with the beauty and the eros, and it's like the room sort of starts glowing pink, and it's like we start giggling and laughing and flirting, and it's some sort of intoxicated romantic state that feels fucking awesome. It's kind of like the most pleasant psychological state a human can be in.
Yeah.
And it's largely, I think, like a mating hormonal neurotransmitter state that gets induced. And if I'm dating and flirting and romancing, like I'm looking for that experience. And talking about our professional resume or debating politics doesn't give anyone that fucking experience.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So, and I don't understand why the majority of what people do on dates is go right into that very narrow window that is almost for sure not going to allow that to happen.